Hi everybody, my name is Samuel, or Sam for short. My father is quite a rich man. He owns a whole chain of restaurants and cafes. Yeah, so I was born to a rich family already. So I didn't really have any problems with money, but my dad is a man of strict manners. He's not a tyrant, as some people think. He just wasn't spoiled as a kid, despite his position. He has the same policy for himself. You know what I mean? Let me give you an example. I go to a very wealthy private school, and there's a bunch of kids in there like me. And a lot of the guys and girls there are very difficult. Sometimes just can't hang out with them. And also, everything at the school is built on money, even the relationships between the classmates. At every break, you hear conversations about who spent how much over the weekend, etc. Who even got to fly abroad on a private plane, or who sailed on a yacht across the ocean. And who hung out with a private villa with servants and all that kind of stuff. That's exactly what my father didn't like. But why didn't he put me here? Simple. Education. Yeah, even for that kind of money, they wouldn't teach me properly. And every day when I came home from school, my father would ask me what I'd learned, and he'd ask me if I had done any good. To be honest, there wasn't much of a reason. At school I hung out with kids, of course, but they called me humble. They didn't really like the fact that I didn't talk about the state of my family like everybody else. But my dad always said that modesty is what makes a real man. He also said that there were things that we could do for ourselves instead of waiting for a maid to do it for us. We had one because my father and I didn't have much time. My mom had been long gone and there was no mistress in the house or whatever. So my dad taught me how to make my own bed, iron my shirts and shine my own shoes and even do some cooking. We rarely ever cooked. We had a cook for that. But sometimes I would beg my father to go to a restaurant or dinner where I'd order a bunch of junk food. Once my father and I were eating in a cafe and one of the customers was being very rude to the waitress and my dad could not stand it and interjected. The waitress cried because of that other guy and called the manager. Instead of chasing away the insolent drunken customer, she yelled at the waitress, deprived her of a tip and humiliated her in front of everybody, calling her a crooked hand. I could see my dad beginning to boil over. He got up from the table and told the receptionist to apologize to the girl, but she just pointed out the way to the exit and left. The only thing we could do was leave her a tip the size of her 6-month salary. She thanked us, though she couldn't believe her eyes. As we drove home, Dad looked pensive, and I asked, "Is something wrong?" Then he answered me with a question. "Son, when you come to the cafe, what do you expect to get as a customer?" I answered, great surroundings, good food, clean everything, and polite staff. And Dad was like, exactly. I didn't understand him very well at the time, but what Dad meant was that you never really know what's going on without looking at the situation from the inside. Oh yeah, did I tell you that my father owned a bunch of chains of restaurants? Well, yeah, he does. Well, right at that moment, he had a plan in his head. The next day, someone knocked on my room. I opened the door and shouted, "Ah, we have a stranger in the house! Guards! Guards!" But I was immediately reassured. Turns out that my father had a false beard, a cap, cheap crumpled clothes, and he was pretty glad that I didn't recognize him. Then I asked him why the outfit. He told me that he wanted to infiltrate one of the cafes and work to see how the employees worked on the inside. But why would you do that, Dad? I asked. And he told me, "What do you mean why? If my cafe has employees like yesterday's admin who makes the whole staff suffer, I don't need that kind of employee," he said. And went. Nobody really was hiring. There were no openings, but when Dad said he would work for food, only to be taught how to do it properly, he made up a story that his own daughter had kicked him out because of his age and illness, and that now he lived alone but couldn't cook, so he decided to get a job at a coffee shop. Somehow, he was hired. That was the first step. The receptionist, Mrs. Harrington, a seemingly smiling and helpful woman, turned out to be the only one for us, the owners of the place. She agreed to hire Dad for 3 weeks, and only for food. She spoke to him very rudely, mocked his limp gait, sometimes even shoved him. "Move it, Grandpa, if you don't want me to fire you," she shouted at his back. My dad, meanwhile, decided to add fuel to the fire. So the first day, my dad dropped a big mountain of plates on the floor. 34 plates broken. Then he almost burned the pizza, snuck shiny dishes in the microwave, and it exploded. Then asked to be a waiter. On the way, he dropped 3 orders right on the floor. The whole time I was sitting off to the side in the cafe and was watching. I don't know why he wasn't kicked out that day. It looked pathetic. My dad and I went there most of the week, and every day there was a scandal in the kitchen. It turned out that our cook was the ex-wife of the vegetable vendor, and Mrs. Harrington was the current one. Both didn't really like each other on a cellular level. so the aggression and anger were spewed out on those around them. I remember noticing a young guy waiter trying to carry a heavy order to the table, but the receptionist dropped his notebook from his hands. He tripped over it, fell over, and the entire order fell with him, fell right on top of him. Anyway, the guy was not only made up to pay the damage to the cafe, but he also washed up everything until late at night. My dad kept moping, but he wasn't harassed to clean up just because of his age. When I asked my dad if he was squeamish working as a waiter, to which my dad said that I shouldn't be rich with those thoughts because a real rich man isn't squeamish about doing dirty work, and I learned that lesson. In the week that Dad worked, the only person who treated him with an open mind was his co-worker, a girl waitress from the provinces. Her name was Erica. She was young and very nice, always helping Dad with his broken dishes, cleaning up after him, bringing coffee, tea, and food with every spare minute. One day when Dad broke the tray of food again, our admin came up to him. She was so angry that she couldn't keep her temper in check. She yelled very loudly at Dad, called him dumb, and "Shut your mouth!" Erica interceded, and the admin slapped her on the cheek, then threatened to fire her. She grabbed someone's half-eaten soup from the table and wanted to pour it on her father, but Erica covered herself in the hot soup and got right on her neck. Anyway, she received first aid, and the doctor said that she would have a small scar from the burn. Erica stayed in the hospital for a couple of days. When my dad and I returned to the cafe, the receptionist immediately rolled her eyes when she heard the story about Erica. "Serves her right for getting out of the way," she said. My father immediately took off his wig, beard, and cap, and then took off his jacket and appeared to the staff in his actual form. Everyone was shocked, and there was a lot of talking going on in the hall, and you could see how much our administrator was absolutely embarrassed. The first thing, my father fired her, then made some adjustments to the work schedule of the cafe, changed the menu personally, and introduced a strict rule of polite communication with each other, not just with the customers. Then we went to the hospital to visit Erica. At first, she couldn't believe it. She refused. Then she saw her boss without an outfit and was speechless. Dad was happy they met such a good person among the staff and immediately promoted her, raising her salary and asked her to be lead management at the cafe. Dad believes that this kind of intelligent employees are capable of making your business something people can love. I don't remember exactly how long it's been since that day, but now my dad and I have made a habit of introducing ourselves to the staff and being undercover to see what's what. I dress up sometimes too. Dad says that it's good to see people working and to work hard on myself. Supposedly, it toughens the spirit. What do you guys think? Is this system sure to work for me? If you liked the video, then please leave a like and comment down below. Don't forget to subscribe.
Hello everyone, my name is Ayasha. I'm in school and I had a very difficult year so far. Maybe for somebody else this year was extra hard? If so, leave a plus in the comments. I don't know what happened to you, but I'm in a bad situation on all possible fronts. It's just awful. Last year, I started dating a guy from our school. He's from a wealthy family, very cool and handsome, and everyone even envied me. At first, I was really happy with him, but then I realized that he was not interested in me at all. He just had to date someone and wear an expensive watch and talk on the latest iPhone just for his image. He was unbearably arrogant and he spoke only about himself and his desires. But at the same time, he demanded that I, like a loyal dog, always be with him. I put up with this for a little while and then I got bored. And I tried to talk to him about this, but then I realized that it was useless and I decided to leave him. All the craziest stuff started from here. He got really mad and yelled at me and then threatened me, but I did not care. I had made a decision. After that, he came with flowers and a gift, but it was clear to me that he just wanted to make up so that he could be the one to break up with me. So I refused. But in reality, I actually liked him and I was very disappointed and upset that I was mistaken about him. I really thought that we could be together, but alas, it did not work out. Maybe I could have even fallen into a depressive episode. But then the next nightmare happened. My father was fired from his job because of the financial crisis. This was a huge tragedy for us. My mother did not work. She looked after the house and raised my younger sisters. And it took a lot of time and effort. And Dad was the only breadwinner in the house. We also had to pay the loan for our house. His dismissal meant that we could not only be hungry, but that we could also be left on the street. All of us in my family began to look for work for each one of us. But during a crisis, it is so difficult to get a job. It's just awful. And besides, my mother did not have the skills to work in her profession because after graduating from college, she was a housewife and did not work an office job. And I mean, someone had to be home with my siblings. In the end, they decided that I would also look for a job. And maybe I would be luckier with that. And I was lucky. I received an invitation from Mrs. Myers to take a trial week and work at her house as a maid. And if I can pass the trial period, I would then receive a very decent salary. And besides, you could work half a day, which means that my grades at school would not suffer. It was necessary to get this job. It was crucial. The next day, I went to work. It was a huge house with 3 floors, and everything inside of it was very beautiful. It turned out that they had a whole staff, a nanny, a cook, a cleaning lady who cleaned thoroughly, but I was needed to maintain the external order, to collect toys after the kids, put everything in place, wipe the crumbs, and bring whatever everyone needed, etc. It was not at all difficult, and my little sisters did things that were way worse, that sometimes you would have to clean the ceiling. The first day flew by unnoticed, and after it the second day, and then a whole week. And then Mrs. Myers said that I was great and that she officially was taking me for the position, and even paid for a trial period with a bonus. I was very happy. Before leaving, she warned me that her eldest son was returning from the competitions tomorrow, and that there would be one more room to take care of. On this day, I returned home and felt like a real hero. I brought money to the family, and we could eat for that for a whole week. My mom burst into tears of happiness because Dad did not find a full-time job. He would only sometimes find temporary opportunities to earn money, but it was not enough in the long run, and I would have a stable salary with payment once a week. The next day after school, I arrived at work, and everything started off as usual, and then I was asked to bring juice into the son's room. I took a glass, but when I entered the room, what I saw shocked me. Sitting at the desk was my ex-boyfriend. He told me to give him a glass of juice without even turning away from the laptop, and I stood there as if glued to the floor, and then he turned his head. There was a long pause, and then a nasty, evil laugh. "You know," he said, "I really wanted to take revenge on you, and now I have a great chance because my wishes always come true. People like me always get whatever they want." At that moment, I really wanted to run away, but I couldn't because a lot depended on this work. I knew that it would be not easy for me now, but the question is, what exactly will he do? Do you have any idea how he will take revenge on me? What can he do? How do I deal with this? With these thoughts, I walked out of his room and went to the staff room, and then there was a call from him again, and now he was asking for another juice. He did not specify which one, just a different one. I took apple juice and then came back, and then there was another order and then another juice. So I took the grape one, and so it went like that 8 more times. I had a lot of other work to do, but I could not do anything, and he demanded that I was the only one to carry the juice to him. My legs were just falling off. I was already tired of running from the first floor to the second, and then he suddenly stopped. But then the children turned the living room into a battlefield. They scattered everything they could, broke a vase, and my boss really did not like it when the room was a mess, and so I had to put everything in order in 10 minutes. I made it in time, but I just did not go home. I literally crawled there. The next day, I went to work, already preparing for another nightmare. I did not know what to expect today, but clearly nothing good. Before my arrival, he allowed the kids to play with the water pistols inside the house, and the cleaning lady did not come on that day, so I had to clean and dry the entire first floor myself. The next time, he made his siblings pour paint on me for the joke. It washed off okay, but then I looked crazy, and besides, I had to wash not only myself but also the floors in the house. While I could not take a shower because I had no other change with me, and I had to go home looking like this. The next day, the whole school was buzzing. Not only did he put out a video where I was cleaning the floors in my uniform, and also there were videos of how I walked home in this stained uniform. It was a real shame. Everyone found out that I was a maid, and many laughed at me. But I couldn't tell everyone about my situation. I just ran home and cried for a long time. After lunch, I went to work again because I still could not find another job, and we needed that money. And then when I walked into the house, what I saw amazed me. My ex-boyfriend was standing in the middle of the living room, and from the above I heard a voice calling me. I went up the stairs, and there was Mrs. Myers. Well, everything is assembled. It's time to start. Boys, start, she commanded at that moment, and a bucket of paint was poured on my ex's head, just like he did with me. And so, since you allow your little brothers to misbehave, moreover you teach them to do it yourself, then you too should experience all their pranks on yourself. She said, "Now clean things up, and you know how your father hates a messy living room." "Lady, how much time did you have to clean up that same mess?" she asked me. 20 minutes, ma'am. Yes, that's exactly how much time you have. Or did you think that the cameras are only there to spy on the staff? No, my dear son. I want my children to behave with dignity. I don't know what this lovely girl did to you, but I think we will discuss this with her in my office on the 3rd floor. And you bring us some juice and just don't make any more mess in the other rooms. We went into the office and I talked there for a long time. I told her my story and she listened to me carefully and asked who my father worked for. And then she said that working as a maid at a young age was not shameful, but still there were more worthy occupations for such quick and smart girls like me. She invited me to come with my dad to Mr. Myers' office tomorrow and grab my resume with me. And yes, while we were chatting, I drank as many as 3 glasses of juice. And perhaps my ex never cared about me as much as he did that day. And also, his mother threatened him that if he does not delete the video with my participation, then she will post a new video with him in it because the home cameras were all working properly. In reality, I felt really good about it. I never thought that I would get help from his mother because I did not even want to complain to her. She was his mom after all, and I thought that she would be on his side. But as my grandma says, kindness always gets her reward, and it seems to be true. Tomorrow, my father and I are going for an interview. Do you think we'll get the job, or will I have to fight with my ex in the future? If you like this story, then press the like button and leave us some comments. And don't forget to subscribe.